Studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And this morning, our guest, when he arrives, he's slightly delayed, he's on his way, but we'll be discussing the various connotations, the various goings-on within the party ranks. There's the, especially the SLPP, SLFP, there's the professionals outfit, and there's Viatmaga, and all those the different things that are going on, the different discussions that are taking place, because it appears that all the parties are in a bit of a flux, to say the least. And when our guest arrives here, we'll be going in for a short break, and then we shall introduce him and ask him to explain and perhaps throw some light on what's going on in the world of politics, especially because the general election is, some say, will happen towards the end of April. In the meantime, thought we'd take a look at the goings-on, the headlines of the printed papers, and the Daily Mirror. The front page, right there, is a photograph of the Attorney General, Dapple de Oliveira, and who says, it says here, probe commission cannot constrain or stay proceedings. And the Attorney General, Mr. Dapple de Oliveira, has informed the acting IGP that there was no power vested with a commission of inquiry to give an order staying proceedings or to make directions to the AG to refrain from prosecution or appearing and assisting in any matter before a court of law. In simple terms, I believe the AG is pointing out the separation of powers, the executive, the legislature, and of course the judiciary. And those three must operate separately. They can advise, of course, one another, but they can't impinge and encroach on the territory of someone else. And that is what the Attorney General is pointing out. And he's sticking to his grounds. And we shall see what happens. Now then, there's another one here that says that a forest officer sticks to guns, refuses to break the law. And that's absolutely wonderful. The Gampar District Forest Officer, Devani Jayatilaka, was there and was sort of staved off an attempt to have a playground in within a mangrove, which she said was not possible. And she stood up and stood to her guns, and good on her. We need more people like her. We need more people like that wonderful Deepa Sinivaratna at the Central Bank, if you remember. She stood up to then Governor Mahendran and said, no, she can't do 20 billion, you know. And she at least managed to halve the potential loss. And now then, the new alliance urges the UNP to lend the elephant symbol. Our guest is on the telephone, and he's making his way into our studios, and we should be going in for a break shortly, and to see if we can get our guest into the seat next to me here. In the meantime, Ranjan Ramanayaka, according to the Daily Mirror, was further remanded till the 26th of February. And also still on the Daily Mirror's front page, the cabinet nod for emergency power purchase has been given, and that is an astounding story, which I'm sure Newsfirst will bring the details to you. And that's about 100 megawatts of power for 6 months for emergency power has been granted by the cabinet, and the Power, Energy and Commuter Transport Management Minister Mahinda Amaravira so says. Now, one wonders what on earth is going on there, because the project in the Wellimud area, the so-called Uma oil project, has got 120 megawatts. They're within months of starting, and the government haven't paid them. And yet they are now preparing to pay for 100 megawatts of power, which industry sources say is not really needed. Still, on the front page, Champika Manu Hakim to have announced that they are to join Sajid Premadasa's alliance. The Jatika Hela Urume, Sri Lanka Muslim Congress and the Tamil Progressive Alliance, the TPA, announced yesterday that they would join the new alliance formed by Sajid Premadasa to contest the general elections. And on that note, we're going in for a short break, and we hope to be joined in the studio by our guest this morning. I'll tell you who it is when he arrives on the set. Shall we? No, I don't think they're ready yet. Okay. Still on the front page then of the Daily Mirror, it says here that there's been an order given by the Attorney General to the acting IGP to submit all recordings between the judge, Pilapitiya, and Ranjan Ramanayaka. The Attorney General has directed the acting IGP to submit copies of audio and video recordings of 12 telephone conversations between the MP, Ranjan Ramanayaka, and the interdicted High Court Judge, Gihan Pilapitiya, for his consideration. According to the Attorney General's State Counsel, Nishara Jayaratne, these recordings are related to 2 ongoing cases at the Nugegoda Magistrates Court in connection with 12 conversations between the 2 suspects during the period between January 1st, 2015 and December the 31st, 2019. And let's go for a break, and we'll be joined, hopefully, by our guests for this morning.
Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukutali.
And welcome back to Newsline Live. We're now joined by our guest this morning, the State Minister for International Cooperation and the stalwart of his party, whichever that is, SLFP, SLPP, but he's been a veteran in the field. He's right here with us, Mr. Sushil Premajanta. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
And I take it you got stuck in traffic, but nevertheless, we'll forgive you if you answer all these questions. Now then, what's going on? All the parties seem to be in a bit of a flux. What's happening with your party?
No, in our camp, SLP, PSLP, together with other left parties, who got together for the victory on 16th of November of His Excellency the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. In our camp, there are no issues at the moment, except the certain politicians. So normally, they make some statements. They limit it to that. Other than that, I don't see any issues.
So who's making the choices? What about the SLFP? And
normally, when we make a alliance, of course, that the major political parties, they have their discussion with the political leaders, and they decide on district basis how many candidates that they want to forward for this election. So accordingly, so those parties, they select or they choose their candidates for each and every district.
so does the SLFP then, you're saying that the SLFP and the SLPP are operating as 2 completely different and distinct organizations? Parties.
As parties, of course, they have their own identity.
Right.
But as a front, of course, we have a common objective.
So you have a common objective.
Common
So
objective.
what's going to be are you going to have a no contest policy in
There's
some
no
areas?
such, according to this election system, because this PR system, not first past post system.
Yeah.
So therefore, now see for an example, we'll take Colombo district.
Yeah.
Here in Colombo district, of course, then 19 members of parliament are elected at the election. So then each and every party, they have to forward 22 candidates in Colombo district, 19 plus 3.
Yeah.
So then when we select these 22 candidates, so each and every party, they have their party allocation. So then now see for an example, if the SLPs give certain number of candidates, so then it is their responsibility to select that particular number of candidates for their party.
Right.
So, and the SLPP also like that, so the other parties. So then what they do is they select their candidates and send it to the committee, the committee comprising all the political parties, and then they decide accordingly.
Okay, now we come to another point now. Our president, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, appears to be sort of non-political. He appears to be. Therefore, but he has this, there's this Viatmaka. And then there's this, all these professionals. Can professionals play a part in government?
Why not? Because
well, I'll ask you why not. I'll tell you why not. Because if you remember, in the Sirisena Wickramasinghe government, and I don't want to get bogged down in this, but we had an Oxford-educated man from Balliol College in Oxford who ran the central bank. We all know what happened to the central bank. He was a professional. So, in the same way, can people who are professional actually run a clean government?
But the thing is, majority of the people are of the opinion that, and they have shown their intention during the election and on day of election by electing His Excellency the President as the President of this country with the majority of over 13.5 lakhs.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of talks about his winning and all that, considering the political situation in the country, and there are so many political parties. In some political parties are confined to one particular area.
Yeah.
Some political parties are national political parties, like that, of course. But this is the 8th presidential election in our country.
Yeah.
For other than this presidential election, last 7 presidential elections, most of the political parties or some people, they express their views that without support of some political parties, of course, you can't win this election, presidential election, because you have to get 50% plus 1.
Yeah. So he's now the president.
But he changed that idea, or one can say it's a myth, but it should change. So then, considering the last presidential election results and how the people casted their vote, of course, so this time you can expect some change or the change of the pattern of the election, how people cast their vote.
Yes, but yesterday I was listening to someone saying that can professionals actually run government? They have nice ideas, but do they have...
No, the idea, basic idea of our present parliament is representative government.
Yeah.
So then we have 21.5 million people.
Yeah.
They all can't get together and then take a decision. So therefore, the people, they elect their representatives to go to the parliament.
All
so
right. What about
in that scenario, the farmers, the laborers, some ethnicity groups, so they need their representative to be in parliament.
Yes,
to represent them.
What about the national list then?
The national list, of course, actually my personal opinion is we must confine to the national list to the educated professionals, and then where after the election the certain ethnicity groups or certain people, if they are not represented through their elected representatives, then you must give opportunity to represent them in the national list.
I want to ask you this. Can people accused of stock market manipulation, can they represent a so-called change in political
that
culture?
I am not. I am not for that, because the thing is, there are so many rumors and then so many talks about some people, But the thing is, in courts, if there are some allegations, they have to prove it in courts. You can make allegations.
Yes. Well, I think what you're referring to is the presumption of innocence in some
Yes,
part of
in
our
the Constitution.
However, what about people who are out on bail? They've been charged within our court system, and as you know, I mean, land cases can take over 20 years to solve, right?
Yes.
Attempted murder cases can take over 6 or 7 years.
Yes.
Murder cases themselves can take so long. So our court system is painfully slow. We all know that. And what about people out on bail? They've been through the system. They've been charged. They're on bail, and we can see them lording it around and trying to play a role in this so-called change of the political culture.
Yeah.
How can the president move forward?
No, suspects are granted bail in courts according to, by going through the background of that particular case, and the certain laws like criminal procedure code and the penal code, and then the relevant laws and the bail act. But you find then some suspects were acquitted and discharged.
Yes, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about some people. They're still out on bail. Their court cases are pending.
Yeah,
but
there is no barrier for them to contest an election. But during the last general election, of course, when I was the Secretary General of the UPFA, with some instructions from hierarchy, as a General Secretary, of course, I stopped four former MPs. They were not given nominations.
Are you able to tell me who they are?
No, I don't want to tell you at this stage, but normally people know.
Right. Okay. But honestly, can you not give me a straight answer to my question, which is that I'm talking very specifically about this. People accused, because you know the stock market manipulation. I'll tell you why I'm asking this. When we read the forensic audits of the central bank thing, what becomes very clear, it's almost startlingly black and white clear. Post 2015, we had the bond scam, the issuance of bonds.
27th of February 2015.
Yes, from then onwards. Okay, so that was bond. Pre-2015, the concern and the losses were in the equity market, in the stock market. You remember those dreadful days of the pumping and dumping. Stocks that were 30 rupees, 40 rupees suddenly went up 260 and beyond. It was sky high. It was higher than an Airbus A350 could travel, right? And we had, this is the point, that's fine. That's the market, you can say. But we had some absolute dopes who, working at the EPF, and obviously under instructions, obviously, they bought what we call these dumped stocks. Stocks that had a par value of maybe 30, 40, suddenly being purchased at over 200. Using the people's monies, Minister. That's the problem.
Yeah, that is you call manipulation.
Yes.
Of course, that's manipulation in the stock market is very bad for the economy, not only the individuals, of course. In that case, there are some laws that to prevent such manipulations, of course. It is up to the authorities to prevent such manipulations, and then if you find the people who are involved in these stock market manipulations, of course, then you have to get them to the books.
Thank you very much for your messages. You can send us more. 0772 300 305, 0772 300 305. It's after all your program. Send me your questions right here by SMS only, please. And I'm going to take one of these messages. This is for you. It says here, EPF was used to raid the stock market. There were names accused at the time of certain people being involved in this pumping and dumping. Today, they are the flag bearers of a new political culture. Shame. Mr. Susil is better than that.
Yeah, of course.
You can see
as a professional, of course, I did my job. Of course, it is up to the people to decide at the general election whether I should be re-elected or not. It's up to the people.
Yes, but you didn't manipulate the stock market.
Because I never, because I was a banker originally.
Right.
I was in the Bank of Ceylon for nearly 9 years, and I go through my banking exams before I left the bank after taking oath as an attorney at law.
Indeed. So that's why you, more than anybody else then, can understand
Yes,
the
of
full
course.
impact of what these rascals did.
Yeah, definitely. Because the thing is, if you go through, because I was one of the committee members of the first COPE committee headed by then Minister Dev Gunasekara.
Absolutely.
So of course then I can remember that recently he has highlighted what he has mentioned in his first report, but unfortunately before releasing the first report of the COPE regarding the bond scam, of course, the government was dissolved.
Yeah.
So it is only in the record, of course. Then of course I was not appointed to the COPE committee, but I made my observations even in Parliament during Parliament debates and when we debated the bond scams. Of course, now we are talking. The commission was appointed to look into the matters of the bond scam within a specific time. Of course, if we go beyond that, of course, that is why commission recommended that to go back and see and then have a forensic audit.
Yes. Now, I don't want to get too bogged down in this because, you know, this bond thing we've gone on and on about it.
Yeah.
And I fear that by only focusing on the bond issue, which is obviously post 2015, we may not be looking at what happened to the people's monies in
the stock market
pre 2015. And it's no good saying that these are unrealized gains or unrealized losses, because that's not the point. The point is when you buy stocks at so many times its par value, you know this,
definitely,
that your rate of return is going to be abysmally low.
Definitely.
Because when a stock from 30 rupees is suddenly 265, the company didn't suddenly make whirlwind profits. The company is just the company going its normal way. This is manipulated. It has no relationship to the profitability of a company. And therefore, the EPF monies, I mean, heaven's sake, Mr. Sushil, we bought a share in grain elevators at around 205. It was trading at between 30 and 40. Now, how many more years is it going to be before the EPF gets a proper return for their money? Because otherwise, they could have put the money in the bond market and made more money.
So, in a way, once you say EPF money means that is the share of the employees.
Yes, of course.
Recovered from them, and then it is in the EPF. That is the largest fund we have in our country.
Yes, it's trillions.
So trillions, and ultimately it's a public funds. Ultimately, once it goes to the EPF or the ETF, of course, then you have to the people who are responsible for handling EPF and ETF. So they have their duty by the people to handle it very carefully.
Now then, another question from another viewer. Would not it have been so much better to have appointed these qualified professionals to the state institutions and get them to turn them around instead of appointing friends and family as they have been doing and leave the politics to the ones who have experience of being a politician?
I totally agree with that, of course. One time I suggested the then president and not the present president.
The other Rajapaksa?
No. President Sirisena and then Prime Minister to appoint. Now here in our country there are 5 public enterprises making losses, and there's a huge impact to the entire economy. Those are Petroleum Corporation, the Ceylon Electricity Board, the Ports Authority, Water Board, and the Sri Lankan Airlines. Now, if you go through their P&L, then you find how much their liabilities are to state-owned banks and the foreign banks and the institutions, of course. Then, if they continue making losses for now so many years, then there's a major impact to the economy. Therefore, so you have to appoint the professionals with some skills and education background to handle these institutions as the chairmen and the CEOs. So I suggested that let the whole application from the people who can handle it internationally and locally, and then get their applications. So then let them send their proposal how you are going to turn around these institutions.
Yeah.
Then of course you don't find then the friends and the classmates or somebody else appointed to these institutions purely based on merit, of course. If we don't do that, of course we won't be able to recover all these institutions.
Well, you know, when we look from outside, you can see that our track record has been very bad.
Yes.
We had Arjuna Mahendran,
Yes.
Oxford man, and all that business. High-flying banker. All right. And then he came here, and we know what happened.
Yes.
Right? Then we have another one, imported all the way from down under, Australia. Okay, he didn't create all those losses there, but he played a significant role, and, you know, the presumption of innocence and all that notwithstanding, the fact is that he is in remand, dragging along with his dear wife.
Yes, of course. Then now fortunately, of course, as a result of a court case in UK. So otherwise, of course, it is. I don't know whether we can trace it.
Well, I'm not sure about that, Minister, because if you remember, the details of that court case from the United Kingdom came out in Sri Lanka towards the evening of the Friday. By Saturday morning, President Nandasena Gotabaya Rajapaksa says he wants a full inquiry, and he's quick off the ball like that.
Yes.
Excellent. But, and here's the catch, on Monday morning, the Attorney General is in court, taking action.
Yes.
That suggests to me that the Attorney General and the police, they just didn't have an investigation between Friday evening and Sunday night. They had the files already. In fact, 3 months before the UK judgment on the Airbus matter, or the agreement in the UK, 3 months before that, the police had already got a travel order against this couple, Kapil Chandrasen and his wife. And that was 3 months before. Why was there no prosecution? Why was there no court case? Apart from that, and it was just, to me, it looks like it was sealed until, thank God for the luck of me and my fellow citizens, all of us, thank God for us, something tragic happened, but a good thing. The government changed. The minute they changed, this government's coming, and Dapula Delivery, bang on, he's gone to court.
Yes, that is, of course, the Attorney General and the police officers were not prevented by his excellency, the President of this government, for taking appropriate action. Because the thing is, so the President was elected 2 months and 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Right? So then, as you said, of course, 3 months ago, that they had some information, and they were preparing to apprehend these people.
Yeah.
So it shows that present president, he doesn't have any political or any other affiliation as far as the public money and the institutions are concerned.
Now then, I'm going to ask you this. This is a bit contentious, but what can I do? These are the questions I've got. I don't have to take them all, but I thought this one was interesting. Mr. Minister, in 2015, the Rajapaksa government was sent home after finishing the war in 2015 was mainly due to corruption, abduction and murder, pumping and dumping, etc., which were denied at the time. When do you think the present president will take action against Nishanta Wickramasinghe, Salia, Jayasuriya, Udanga Weeratunga, Arjuna Mahendran, / UNP ministers? Is it not being done because of the relationship and friendship to the Rajapaksa family?
No, that is because Rajapaksa's family is not, they were not in power. And in the Maithripala Sirisena, the former president, and the Ranil Wickremesinghe, they were in power.
Yeah.
And then we have
As in,
seen...
the point he's saying is that in 2015 they were sent home because of all these
No,
things.
but yeah, there were some allegations, but the thing is, you know, for last 4.5 years, of course, I don't know what happened. So then the police and
What
the
happened in pre-2015?
Attorney General Department, and they should have taken appropriate steps. Some of the politicians were charged, but they were, after the trial, they were discharged and acquitted. Of course.
That's fine. We don't want to take issue with that. But what I'm saying is that there are still outstanding matters, and that is what this viewer is saying.
There can be some outstanding, you know, even there were certain commissions appointed, and then the interim reports were released, and based on the findings of the commissions, the Attorney General Department and the police can take appropriate action. So we are there at the moment, and the present president, he didn't have much time to focus on these issues. But the thing is, now see, as you pointed out, of course, in the issue of the Abbas commission, of course, then the president took immediate action. So then president didn't know that whether the Attorney General, they had all the information, or the police had the information. But as the President of the country, and then
he's done what he has to do. We've got no complaints with that.
That is right.
But the people's complaint is whether this president will be allowed. I think that's the real question.
No, definitely.
Will he be allowed to act?
This present president is elected by the people to take action at the appropriate time.
Yes.
So then we can see that he's taking actions, of course.
But
so
because of the 19th Amendment, the president isn't as powerful as President Mahinda Rajapaksa was.
Yeah, there are certain executive powers were reduced by appointing the CC and the commission. And on the other hand, if you look at the appointments made by CC, of course, that is also questionable. Now, see, for an example, the IGP was appointed by CC. He was in remand for 4 months. Now he is released on bail. So those are the things that we have to look at. Of course, then if you say by passing the 19th Amendment and appointing CC and the Independence Commission, it doesn't mean that you can have all the appointments made, right appointments made.
Right.
That is one instance. But on the other hand, of course, one can say that the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, after introduction of the 19th Amendment, the CC is, there's another power place, CC, to appoint commissions and their members, and then the high post like Attorney General or General, like that, of course.
Yes, I've got another question here from a member of the public. It says here, will your guest agree that Ajit Nivard Cabral manipulated the stock market and was backed by the former president Mahinda Rajapaksa? Can the names of those involved in pumping and dumping be released?
No, the thing is, manipulation of the stock market is, I don't think that the governor of a central bank can manipulate that, of course. If you go to...
But the EPF is looked after by them.
EPF and ETF is under the treasury, the central bank, and then there are some officials. Then you find, then see, for an instance, this Airbus case, of course, that the commission was given to the CEO. But there are no cabinet decision to purchase all these Airbuses and all that.
Yeah.
And even the termination, there are no cabinet decision prior to the
That's right,
termination.
the minister was not kept informed.
So then in certain instances you find some CEOs or some officials
so doesn't that
are
mean,
responsible.
Yes, but then doesn't it mean that, you see, I'm going to have to say this, but there are some matters, when you look at them individually, it seems very innocuous. But taken as a bigger picture, now, for example, the Sri Lankan Airlines, the decision to purchase these aircraft at the board level was made in pre-2015. All right? And that means under President Mahinda Rajapaksa. There was one particular board meeting, the board meeting in which the A350 case was decided upon. That meeting actually took place in the Speaker's residence. Now, if you just look at it only that and say, well, okay, it was a board meeting, it was held, it can be held on the beach in Mount Lavinia. It doesn't matter. Unless the Articles of Association says otherwise. But that's just one matter on its own. But rather like our Constitution, you can't look at it in dismembered bits. You've got to look at the intent. Now, the intent of this was obviously to try and order an aircraft that was capable of taking a full passenger load and a full cargo load non-stop from Colombo to, let's say, to London. All right? That was the technical theory. But when we now examine it, it looks like the fuselage was changed for a smaller one. You save money, you make more money that way, right? And the list price of an A350 is approximately $317 million. The cancellation charge that they wanted was $154 million.
Originally.
Gee, that's nearly 50%.
Yes.
On top of that, we've paid $7.5 million, 19.2 million United States dollars. The 19 plus 7 is 26, right? So that's 26, nearly 27 million, plus 98 million. That's 125 million already.
Yeah.
The 2 million sent to Kapila's account, which he didn't know anything about in Brunei, takes a total to 127. If you add the interest, Minister, and all the charges, the cost of those funds and everything else, we are perilously close to 154 million. And it was paid to an orphan trust. That's another catch.
Yeah. This is, of course, you have to investigate from this side what has happened. Now, the Sri Lankan Airlines, they took decision by their board way back some around 2012, 11 to lease out 4 aircrafts and purchase 4 aircrafts. So 8, totally 8 according to sources. And it was reported in the Sunday Times in detail those days. I can remember. So then, of course, that was after. If you go through some comments made by the people who involved in this airline business, of course, it is high time to either lease out or purchase new aircrafts in order to replace the old aircrafts, because we have...
That's an operational matter.
That is okay. There was a necessity to introduce...
There was no necessity to take bribes, though.
No, that is... Then I am not talking about the bribe. I am talking about the necessity to purchase or lease out new aircrafts to replace old aircrafts. Otherwise, you can't run the airline, of course. Then, of course, then the board took decision, and then they entered into agreement, and then they continued. Then the government changed. Then, based on some reports and then some consultants' reports of then the new government, of course, they took decision to terminate the lease agreement, right? So there was no cabinet decision, because if you go to the minutes of the commission...
Yes, we saw that, and Mr. Kabir Hashim's cabinet paper is now like a best-selling novel. It's like War and Peace. Everybody knows
not only that, the bottom of that cabinet memorandum, it is mentioned that the Honorable Kabir Hashim, then minister in charge of the subject, indicated or stated in the cabinet paper that he submitted that cabinet paper in consultation with then President. It means that he has explained everything to the President, and on the direction or the advice of the President, he submitted that cabinet. It is only a cabinet memorandum, not seeking any approval. Just to inform the cabinet, this is what has happened.
Last and final question. The presumption of innocence is a matter only for the courts to observe while a trial is on in a courthouse. Allegations well known to the public cannot be thrown away as immaterial when coming to the appointment or appointing people to govern the country.
Yes, but the CEOs are appointed by that particular board after calling in application. So
I don't mean
they
only
must
Sri
have some
Lanka. I'm talking
procedure.
about everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm talking about, like you people now have, you're trying to find professionals to run these things.
Yeah, that is why
But can professionals who have also got allegations against them, can they run?
They are professionals. The allegations are made against them. Of course, there are so many evidence, and then if you go to media and all that, you find those allegations. But without professionalism or skills or the education background, so you can run all these institutions. So then now even in other countries, so who run airlines? The people who have some knowledge, skills, professionalism, and the academic
And who
background.
runs
of
government?
course. Government also run by you find in parliaments, not only in Sri Lanka, even in other countries, you find professionals, you find farmers, you find laborers, you find what you call trade union leaders, like that. Of course, everywhere you find that. Now see, for an example, in India, in Delhi, of course, the Kejriwal re-elected by the people with overwhelming majority.
Yes, but also I think the point that I am trying to make here is that in other robust democracies, government is run by men and women who show and display and act with integrity and with the highest of moral standards.
Yes.
And that sadly, Mr. Minister, would you agree with me, as the last and final question, do you agree with me that when it comes to ethics, when it comes to integrity,
yes.
It is sadly lacking in Sri Lankan politics?
See, you find not only in politics, so even in other places also.
Is it lacking in politics?
Yes, it's lacking in the politics. That is why the people elected His Excellency Gotabaya Rajapaksa to look into all these matters. At the forthcoming election, you have to forward the right people to the as candidates. Then, of course, the people will be able to elect their right candidates to the parliament.
Sushi Premajanta, State Minister of International Cooperation, thank you very much. We've run out of time, extended time, but thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
And that's the way it was on this extended version of Newsline Live. Take care, have a wonderful day ahead of you, and of course, God bless.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.